Hey everybody, Connor Onion here, the first of two Connors you'll hear on this podcast. Connor James is coming right up. First, a reminder this episode and all episodes are brought to you by McAllister's Deli in Carbondale, located on East Main Street. Soups, salads, spuds, great sweet tea, and of course much, much more over there at McAllister's Deli. All right, now our guest. From 2007 to 2011, he was a Saluki football player, a captain as a senior, part of two playoff teams, and he's remained a member of the community ever since coming to Carbondale in 2007, and now is back in the athletic department as an academic and career development coordinator. Many know adult Connor James well, but how about we start all the way back at the beginning?
Well, some folks may have seen there have been some videos released of me in a Christmas play, kindergarten age. I was full energy, tapping the microphone. We did some jingle bells, and I think that's just kind of the way that I lived my life at that time. I had a little mullet, and I was 100 miles an hour all the time. And I watched that. It's probably 15 to 20 minutes, and it's nonstop me distracting other people in the play, not singing my own song, got my own dance going on. So as a young kid, I was full of energy, and I do believe that once they found sports that helped with that, which was football. Baseball was not good because you had to stand still in the outfield, and I would get distracted and usually pick dandelions. But I had a lot of energy as a kid growing up, and sport was definitely an outlet that helped channel that in a positive direction.
So your family figured out pretty quickly that you were not going to Broadway.
I didn't make Glee Club either, so no.
Oh, you got cut.
I didn't even get a shot. I mean, I think, there wasn't, that was first grade. It was open tryouts. I think everybody got to try out, and didn't make that one, and that was okay.
Oh, that's amazing. I had seen that video of you going nuts on the mic and doing your own thing. I think your wife Megan had posted that, but that's pretty incredible. You got cut. So you said that kind of led you to football. When did you first get started playing the sport?
So that wasn't until fifth grade. So basketball, I played some basketball, played some baseball. I will say in third grade, there was some like inter-school competitions where they did a crab walk championship, they did a sprint championship, and they would have us practice and stuff. So there was some stuff at lower elementary level that we were still able to do, but football was fifth grade.
Father's Day was last week, and you shared some touching words about your father who you lost when you were 13 years old. If you don't mind, take me back just to that day that you lost your dad and what happened on that day.
Yeah. I had some friends stay the night. You know, we had just enjoyed the holidays together, Christmas, and my dad traveled a lot for work, and so it's always great around that time of year to have him home. And I actually had basketball practice. It was December 28th, and morning basketball practice. My dad took me and a couple friends that had actually stayed the night, dropped us off, and I was in the front seat, and he had his coffee cup. It was sun was rising, cool, really cold December morning, obviously, and he dropped me off, and that was the last time I saw him. Hours later, he had a heart attack helping. He's just the kind of guy he was. He was helping a family friend move furniture, and 46 years old, had a massive heart attack, and that was it. He passed away right then and there. Health was not terrible. I'd been told maybe he had some high cholesterol, but I think, that day was hard. I can't imagine it for my mom to have to tell your three boys that their hero's gone. That's why I just respect her so much. And then at the time we were 16, 13, and 11. And for her to raise us and to finish raising us and releasing us to college and adulthood was incredible. But that day specifically, Connor, I think knew something was up. Somebody else had to pick me up from basketball practice and took me to a family friend's house, and then just more people at the house. And, it's kind of like, well, this is odd. And then actually, I'm sorry. Now you go back to the memory. I was actually, somebody had taken me back home, and then okay. So it's coming back to me, one piece of it here. I was at home after practice. Somebody else had picked me up, but then the gentleman that my dad was helping actually came to our house, knocked on our door, was very frantic. And so we were left at the home without my mom or dad there. This was my younger brother and one other friend. And then quickly after that, some family friends picked us up. And then returning back to the home, there was tons of people there. And so ever since he had came by, I knew something was up, but didn't know what. And the thing that we look back on the day specifically is that my younger brother and I experienced it extremely differently than my older brother. My older brother was 16, and he actually went to the hospital and saw my dad, and Cameron and I did not. So it's a day that changed everything for us. But looking back on it, it's hard to say, but I do think that it's been something that has led to a lot of good things and developed us into the people that we are. So,
yeah, I'm sure there's no map for how to grieve when you're 13 years old and you lose your dad. I mean, what were those next couple of months like as far as grieving your loss?
I was slow, very slow to grieve, I think. I was probably more in the likes of somebody that it came in waves. When it came hard. But I was very much probably like you would experience me if you knew me today. Just a very positive, we're going to be all right. We're going to get through this. Even when my mom told me that day, it didn't hit me when she told me. I still remember her having to sit us down and tell us, and I didn't get emotional or anything. I think I was just kind of in shock. I might have even, I don't know if I was smiling, but I definitely wasn't crying. And I think that over the course of the next few months, Connor, there's a story. This is what is special about sport, but also I remember going back to practice. So it was around the holidays, but I was on the basketball team, and I'll never forget walking through the double doors into the main gym at Mattoon Middle School, and all the team was around. There's probably 6 baskets in there. They're shooting free throws, and as the doors open, and my mom kind of like, she didn't want to be the overly protective mom, but basically walked me to the door and then opened the door, kind of released me to practice. All these guys are shooting free throws, and then I just see them all stop, turn, stare at me. And that sound when nobody's touching a basketball, but it had been bouncing, the bounce just gets faster and faster. Every ball in the gym just like until it was rolling on the floor. And it was just a moment of like, all right, guys, this is awkward. I need you guys to and they came over and kind of embraced me. And, a lot of them didn't know what to say, but I think within 90 seconds, I was shooting free throws, and and then it was back to practice there. So, things like that I remember in the early months there. But yeah.
You mentioned sport. So I did want to ask, when somebody experiences loss that plays a sport, I feel like, one of two things either happens. Either that loss kind of inspires what happens next, or that's their escape for what happens next. Where do you kind of fall on that spectrum? Was sport an escape, or was it more of a, I want to play in honor of my dad and do well by his name?
Yeah. Definitely the honor piece, I think. That was always a motivation anyway. He just loved watching me play, and no matter if it was baseball, even though I probably wasn't, I wasn't the baseball player that he was. That was his sport. He got to watch me play football for 2 years, and loved watching me play football. So, yeah, I wouldn't call it an escape, because there were moments where I definitely thought about him during sport. But yeah, it was a chance to. I think I at that time would have viewed it as, honoring him or playing for him. I'm representing him.
When did you kind of accept your new life as your new normal? Like, when did things kind of slow down for you as far as the initial shock of your dad not being there anymore?
What comes to mind is when there's those key moments that he would have been there that he's not. So at our middle school in 8th grade, you have your parents walk you out on that night where you get recognized on Parents' Night. And it was just my mom. I still remember that. Those type moments, awards night, same thing, 8th grade. And then, playing, then you get to high school and you start playing the football, and you're playing at a high level. The moment when you get told you're going to play varsity you're going to start varsity as a sophomore. And then again, just even within that 4 to 5 year time frame, senior night in high school, those are the moments that you start to, oh yeah, this really is forever type thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You mentioned playing football at a high level. I mean, you go on to Mattoon High School, have a Hall of Fame career there, class of 2018, into the Hall of Fame. Take me back to your recruitment when you're in high school. What was your first interaction with Saluki football? When did they start coming after you?
Recruiting is at that time, it was a job. It was a summer job. I couldn't have done it. I had a teammate, Derek Bath. He played at the University of Pennsylvania. He ended up going Ivy League. But our parents, I can't imagine the total miles that they logged that summer after the summer between our junior and senior year. We went to 10 plus camps all over the country, as far as 8 to 10 hours away. And as far as SIU is concerned, I don't think I grab Coach Kill and Coach Matukowicz and Coach Limegrover's attention if I don't come to their one-day camp. I came here and I tested really well, but I tell people I really think I earned a partial scholarship and an opportunity to play Division I football on defense in an offensive drill. It was a simple drill, and I remember having the mindset right before set hut of like, hey, you're here to compete and to win. The objective at hand is just to show out and to win an opportunity to play Division I football. Doesn't matter if you're acting as a running back in this linebacker drill or you're the linebacker. I was a running back, and I just did a really good job. I finished the drill the right way. And I think that really caught the attention of Coach Tuke, who then held me after for extra drills. And then that really developed that relationship, send me letters, asking for film. Coach Kill came and visited me at Mattoon High School and then offered me the scholarship that day. So then came on my official visit as well later on. So
did you run somebody over in that drill or what?
No, it was a non-padded camp. It was a pursuit drill. So as a linebacker, you got to take a good inside-out angle. I was the running back, and there was a cone down the line, probably, on the numbers of the field. And I got to the cone, and I made a really aggressive cut back towards the middle of the field, and I made two linebackers miss by 4 yards just because I sprinted. I sprinted as hard as I could. Made a sharp cut and then got back to the middle of the field and made them miss so badly. I guess it caught the attention of Coach Tuke. So
whoever you made miss, you cost them a scholarship then.
I don't know.
Well, you said Coach Kill came to visit you in high school. What do you remember about those early interactions with Coach?
Well, he came to visit me, I think, after my official visit here. So getting to meet him here and see just the respect that other people had for him, his staff, and getting to talk with him a little bit. He sat down and talked with my mom. I think that's the thing that that instantly stands out initially with Coach Kill was how much just genuine respect and appreciation and almost compassion he had for my mom, knowing what she was going through and going through the recruiting process by herself, and having heard that, literally just 4 or 5 years earlier that her husband had passed away suddenly like that. And so that was my first interaction. And then one of the things that they really just talked about a lot during the process was my passion for the game. And they would say, we see it show up on film, in your celebration with teammates, and you love the game. And that meant a lot to them and was one of the reasons that they continued to recruit me.
I mean, were you a guy that was kind of telling yourself, I want to get to the FBS level? I'd prefer FBS schools were recruiting me, and then you just so happen to play at Southern and FCS school, or were you just happy to play anywhere?
I'm going to drink this and then answer. Is that okay?
Yeah.
It was all about fit for me. I don't say this boastfully or hopefully it doesn't come off as overconfident. I did have the confidence that I could play at the FBS level. I also knew that it might be a tougher journey there, or it might come without a scholarship going that route. I had coaches at, our team went to Northern Illinois camp every year. And I'd had coaches basically give me that feedback. Hey, you can play at this level. You may have to walk on. And so I think throughout the process, you get exposed and you start to see the talent that's out there. And at some point, I made the decision of, hey, let's not just chase the idea of being at a big school. Back then it was really just FBS, but being at a big, Big Ten school, or being at a major MAC school, let's not just chase that idea just to chase it, because what really matters to me. And some of the things that came up were playing. And I knew that maybe not starting right away, but I wanted to play. I wanted to go to a program that was successful. And I wanted to go to an institution in a region that I felt like would be a really good fit for me, even if football was taken away. I wanted to be regionally so my mom could come watch. That's something that was really important to her. So there was a lot of factors that went into play. I didn't come here on a full scholarship. I had more scholarship at other places that I could have went Division II. But I came to SIU because of the fit, the winning tradition, just the feel when I came on my recruiting visit, and that was a big part of why I decided to go FCS level, and it worked out.
Yeah, you walked into a pretty good situation in 2007. You redshirted, but you get to witness a Final Four run and practice on a team that goes to the national semifinals. You've told me the story before about that Delaware game at McAndrew Stadium, packed, national TV. It's Joe Flacco in for Delaware, chance at the national title game. From your vantage point, what was that game like?
I remember walking across campus that week, and I've told current Saluki football players this. Imagine playing so long into the playoffs that you're having to ask professors about missing finals. We were going to miss finals the next week to go to Tennessee to play in the national championship, and I remember just thinking about that. I'm one game away, and obviously the game was a classic. It's been on ESPN Classic. What was even more special is some of those guys that came in our 07 class were out there and they were contributing, and I think that was really special as well. So from my vantage point, we wanted to win. I was mad that we didn't win.
Was it hard to watch and not be able to play in that game?
I don't think so. I think when I was told I redshirted and the reasons why I was going to redshirt, I accepted that. And that's another thing that I learned early on is you have to seek your role within the program. And so that year, my freshman year, obviously, I did as much as I could to just be really great scout team player. And the really neat thing is late in the season, and I think Coach Hill has done this here. Late in the season, Coach Kill rewarded myself and Bobby Brenheisen by taking us on the trip out to Hampton, Virginia, which was really cool because they had kind of identified us as two scouts that had worked really hard all year long.
I think that 2007 season, looking back on it now, it's kind of cool just based on like the last 2 years in Saluki athletics, because you're back. Coach Hill has obviously been back as the head coach, and then Coach Kill came back and was the athletic director. You're a redshirt you're a true freshman in 2007. You're in a locker room where I'm assuming it's Coach Hill's locker room. He's the man. He's the senior quarterback. What did you learn as a leader from him when you were a rookie?
I think Coach Hill and I have talked about it. I wasn't around him as much because I was with the front seven, and we did a lot. Like the front seven offensive line and the backs would do a lot with us, our scout D line and linebackers. So I wasn't in a lot of skelly, but one of the things I just remember specific to Coach Hill and I was after the Delaware loss, I had to run back into the locker room, and I think he was probably the last one in there. And rightfully so, he's disappointed, and he just kind of looked up and said, "Hey, just don't take it for granted. Every day matters. Everything matters. Everything you do matters, and you guys got to take it from here and keep building." And so that was that. If there was a moment between the senior superstar and the scout team, mind my own business, don't ever talk to anybody unless asked to, that would have been the moment.
I'm kind of envisioning you going, "Are you talking to me?"
It felt that way a little bit.
Well, there were some good things to come your freshman and sophomore year, lots of winning in those 2 years. I know you're itching to tell this story. Your first play in a college football game, what was it?
Well, there's a lot of build up there too. Being a freshman that had to redshirt around the program and getting to see football played at a high level. We played Hampton at home. it was hogs and dogs. So they've got hundreds of motorcycles revving their engines out at the old McAndrews Stadium. And I'm on kickoff, and I'm right over the ball. So I'm right in the middle of the field. And I just remember, that they ask them to rev up the engines, and they blow that whistle. And I felt like I was floating. I was like, I remember before the kick, like, this is college. This is what college football is right here. And, McAndrew probably had, it was an opening game. So probably 16,000 people there, and run down the field full speed and get blocked in the back, and face mask drives into the turf all up in my face, and really that was about it. So it didn't make a tackle on the first run down and kickoff, but just a special memory of that first time out, and the energy that you can feel playing college football.
So do you go from thinking, man, this is cool, I'm floating, to, man, this is going to stink. I'm going to have my head in the turf a lot?
Well, I probably went from this is awesome to yelling at the officials, hey, did you see that? He pushed both hands into my back. That's why I fell face forward.
Well, freshman year, you guys go to the playoffs. And then 2009, you guys have a really, really good team your sophomore year, number one in the country at one point, finished 11-2. How much noise did you guys hear with national expectations, and how hard was it to stay focused through some of that?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly. After we beat Northern Iowa at their place, first time in 20 years or something like that, that was when I think we took over the number one ranking, and the expectations rose. And but I think the really special thing about 2008 and 9 really is it never mattered. I mean, it never mattered how much we were down, how much time was left. There was just this confidence. There was an unwavering confidence that we had the guys to go make the plays. And especially in 2008, there was at least 3, 4, 5 games there where it was under 4 or 5 minutes to play, and we had to come up with a play. And I can remember Coach Rogers made a big play against Northern Iowa late in the game. But as far as 2009, yeah, we were ready to roll once we got into the playoffs, and just a high level of the players that we had at that time, the guys that we had, the coaches that we had. There was definitely a togetherness, a confidence, and yeah, it was a fun time to be a part of this program, Saluki Football.
Did you know that Southern Illinois University awards students $10 million annually in scholarships, has test optional admission, and in-state tuition for all U.S. residents? SIU offers hands-on, career-focused learning in every major, which are supported by internships and community service and the potential for study abroad and more. Southern Illinois has faculty who bring real-world experience to the classroom and the classroom into the real world. See what SIU can do for you at the next open house. Registration and info at siu.edu/open house. Exploring options. That's a Saluki.
Made it to the quarterfinals, then a loss to William and Mary in the quarterfinals. Do you think about that one? Do you think you guys should have won that game still?
I still think about both playoff losses in 8 and 9 and really 7, but when I was on the field, those are the ones that you remember. Because of my role at that time within the program, now I got to play 10 to 15 snaps at backer, which was awesome. I was in a linebacker room with probably the smartest linebacker that I've ever kind of been around, and then the most instinctive linebacker. And they both played my position. and I still got to play, which I still don't know how, both as a redshirt freshman and sophomore. And that was Ryan Patton and Brandon Jordan. Those two guys. I mean, Brandon was the most instinctive player, and then Ryan probably knew the plays they were calling before they even ran the line of scrimmage. But I still remember William and Mary faked a punt on us. You know, I took a lot of pride in special teams because that was my role. They faked a punt on us on like 4th and medium. So yeah, still remember some of that stuff. But I will say William and Mary in the 2009, they were a good team. I don't think we didn't make a ton of mistakes. I think that our teammates would agree that there were some guys that they had on their teams and some things that they did, they executed at a higher level than we did that day. And then they went on and got beat by Villanova. But yeah, it was a fun time.
Junior and senior year, 2010, 2011, a little bit of a drop off, not playoff teams as an upperclassman. Why do you think things got a little hard as far as the wins and losses those final 2 years?
Mike McElroy and we talk about this a lot. When things are going really well, if you don't identify why they're going well, then you can just as easily miss things when they start going wrong. And we couldn't put a finger on it. I don't know that we could. In 2010, I feel like we weren't experiencing the same success we were, and we were looking around at each other like, what's going on? And it was frustrating because you felt like you didn't have an answer, and you could keep working harder and pressing in harder, but it didn't change the actual result. And that's the beautiful thing about sports. That's a beautiful thing about competing is, hard work matters and putting in the work matters, but sometimes you still end up on the wrong side of it.
Once you get done playing, I know you just were part of a documentary that covered this topic with Greg Camelone, who worked in video the last 2 years for Saluki Athletics. The student athlete identity. You get done playing, you've had this identity for some people their whole life as an athlete, and then all of a sudden you play that last game and you're not an athlete anymore. I mean, how do you come to terms with not having that label and not having that lifestyle anymore once you get done?
Well, first of all, I mean, my heart still hurts so much for the spring sport athletes of 2020 because it's a big deal, and it's so much of your life. It's so much of your headspace, and for those student athletes, I will never forget that. And I think that any coach should always try to remember that to communicate to the rest of their team kind of what transpired for them, because there was even if they were doing a good job thinking like, okay, this is coming, it was slammed in their face and without notice, just like an injury would be, but it was still different because there was the unknown, the season of the unknown of, are we going to get the season? Are we going to get to compete? Are we not? So I know you asked me the question about my career, but it just made me think, I truly could not imagine going through what the spring sport athletes went through this year. For me, my body was at a place where I was ready. I'd come to peace with it a little bit. I would have loved to have made a run at the playoffs. I remember after we got beat at Northern Iowa in 2011, that was when I knew, hey, you got X amount of more games because we were mathematically eliminated. And I absolutely broke down on the plane, and it kind of hit me then. There's a combination of frustration immediately after the game, and then reflection and emotions on the plane. And I think that would have been my main moment, shared 30,000 feet above. After that, it was all right. Like, how do you want to go out? How do you want to end this thing? And, Mike McElroy, Scotty Cole, Brian Bomer, and so many other seniors. It was like, all right, we can choose how we want to finish this thing out. And we did. We won the last 2 games. And for me personally, as far as athletic identity, my identity at that time was shifting more towards, I think having a faith foundation really helped me at that time. Other guys, I think I had seen struggle maybe in classes above me too, where they were in this in between of, I want to play more at the next level, get caught, I'm playing in middle of nowhere, Iowa, and Arena League. And I love it because that's what it takes sometimes to play at that level. But I just decided for me, that was not the route I was going to go. I was happy with the time that I'd had. And yeah.
I mean, the reason I think this is especially relevant to you is because you did so many things after you played football. You dabbled in a lot of different things. What was that search like in finding that new purpose, outside of getting bigger, faster, stronger, and winning football games?
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I think I did an excellent job of disbanding myself from the game. I didn't necessarily have clarity on what wagon I was going to hitch myself to next, and that has been a process. And I think I've heard somebody say, we're all a work in progress. And from a professional standpoint, that next chapter was very unclear for me. And so you could call it a blessing. I've had the blessing of getting to try new things out and find what I like and what I don't like in a profession. And yeah, it's been a fun ride since that time. But I immediately started out, kind of finished my graduate degree because I'd started that in my 5th year of football. Finished that in the academic office at SIU as a graduate assistant, as an academic advisor there, working with an awesome staff and supporting football, which that was a unique thing. I went from captain to now being an academic advisor for that same team and worked with baseball as well. And then got a full-time job working for a nonprofit, American Cancer Society, within 12 months, and didn't really realize how fortunate I was at that time to have that position too.
You come back full circle, and you worked as a graduate assistant, and now you're back in the academic world, especially or specifically as it pertains to being a student athlete, not just in general, but at SIU, now working with SIU athletes. How do you think that specific experience translates to help you do your job better now?
The experience of learning through those professional endeavors, or
just you went to school, you played at SIU, and you're going through a lot of the same things that the athletes you're now leading and helping are going through. I mean, is there a level of empathy that you can have to some of their struggles now?
Absolutely. The word that comes to mind is intentionality. And as student athletes, you can't get much more intentional. Everything that's scheduled is scheduled with intention. You've got, obviously your weight training, you've got your practice, you've got some of it's dining hall, some of them. everything, your film study, your additional film study, your practice study, like I said, everything's scheduled with intentionality as it pertains to your sport. So I really empathize with the side that I didn't focus on. So much focus and emphasis was put on, and vision. I talk to current student athletes about this a lot. I had a really clear vision of where I wanted to go when I was a freshman in 2007, and we were playing in the semifinals. And Coach Kill did build this belief into me. Hey, you're going to be a leader for our program someday. I had a vision of, I want to be a captain for this program. I want to be a leader. I want to be an all-conference caliber player someday. I had zero vision or zero thought about how's my major going to apply to the next however long I live. And so I really empathize with that. And the more intentionality with programs, just even discussions, exposure to alumni, the more we can have of that, the more hopefully it inspires vision and intentionality within existing current Saluki student athletes.
How different is leading a football team compared to leading athletes academically now? Like, are the skills similar? Are they exactly the same, or are they vastly different?
They're similar. There's a lot of similarities. I think having had the experience of trying to lead a team, a college team, helps me understand the headspace of an existing student athlete and how I can support them academically. But at the end of the day, Connor, it really is, it's about relationships and trust and accountability. And I tell the student athletes that I specifically work with on an academic basis, if we have a relationship, I tell them that, like, part of my promise to you and your parents, whether I did or did not get to meet them on a recruiting visit, is that I want you to be a better version of yourself. And I want you to grow and mature as an individual, as a human being while you're here. And part of that is sometimes holding you accountable, or asking you difficult questions, or expecting a little bit more of you than maybe I think that you're giving with that particular scenario. So in that regard, I think having the experience of being a college student athlete has helped.
You're a deep thinker. I always enjoy hearing you speak, and also some impressive stamina. I think you're one of our longer conversations we've had on the podcast. So,
oh wow!
I don't mean to cut you off. I think we could keep going, but I feel like our time is coming.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I guess I talk too much.
No.
It's a special place, Connor. I've been here for since 2007, as you said. So I've been here 13 years, and I tell people that I'm a product of something.
If nothing more, you met your wife at Southern, right?
So I'm a pretty lucky guy, man. Pretty lucky guy in that regard. That is, we went this whole time. That is the number one best thing that has come out of my time at SIU is my partner and my number one teammate now, my wife, Megan James.